So this is my little playhouse. You can hear I've put down some music in the back, and I've got a couple of mirror balls, half mirror balls, spinning right beside me. So it's a pretty spaced out, crazy kind of place. But it's an extreme. Like, I've made this place to do this kind of stuff. I've spent a lot of time perfecting the techniques for making this place work. And it will get better as well. I've got some big plans for improving the system, upgrading it to the next level, achieving a kind of perfection. Yes, I've got dreams that no one else has. And one of them is to master the prism spectrum mirror ball. And so it is. No one else has bothered mastering it. So I have no one to follow, and who knows if people will be inspired by my early work. And every month it gets better. There's just things I invent. Other systems, music changing perhaps. I'm not particularly bothered about the music. It's something that just happens. Something that accompanies me while I do my work of capturing the images. It's a strange life. But this is currently 12 prisms creating 24 spectrums. And the current mirror ball, bring it over so I can have a look. That's it there, 2 half mirror balls. Let's just get this thing swinging. Yeah. So, grand frontiers of art in a particular way that's never been done before, because we didn't have the opportunity before. And what do I want to achieve? I want people to see a certain kind of beauty in the raw form. This is an analog system for creating instant art. It's been around for 1,000 years perhaps in some particular form, but the mirror, the specialization, the production of the mirror, and that technology has only really come about in this last century. And polystyrene, well, that's only come about in the last 50 years. And the ability to make the prisms, and then the ability to make the camera that captures the images in a certain way. It's all new. We haven't been this way before as humans, and that's my inspiration. I don't need to follow, because there is no one to follow. And it's like a lot of other things in my life. What I've tried to do is try to be authentic, try and be complete as a human. I want to be not something that is the production of a corrupt society, one that's unsustainable, one that has no future. I want to be something of a creator rather than a consumer. I want to make the future happiness in a certain way, perhaps. I think I understand enough about evolution to know that everything starts with a one. It might be a mutation. It might be a behavioural trait. It might be choosing this rather than that. But evolution is very exact. So what I've done is I've decided there are 3 things that I can advise people in mastering. We want to move closer to what it is that we are as a human. One of those is mastering human sound. That's the least we can do. And if we fail to gain some enormous insights in becoming the master of the instrument we were born with, then we'll just end up with a world where people just have amazing voices anyway. And we'll just be creative with that. We'll turn our sporting stadiums into mass choirs, and we'll have choir parties. Improvisation would form bazaars of groups because we'll be liberated with our voice. It means harmonic singing, it means vocal projection, it means vocal characterization. It means putting an effort in. So to master anything, it will take 1,000 hours. So in a year's time, I expect you to be a third of the way there, but so inspired to be thinking, wow, this is such a spectacular kind of sound. Because it's also training the brain to hear the sounds, as well as the voice to produce the sounds. It also means mastering the clapping pop. It means that each of us could train up quite easily to become a beatbox artist. It means we could become operatic singers, or theatrical voices. We can do all these things with our voice. But it will take 1,000 hours, just like it does with any other skill. It takes 1,000 hours to learn any musical instrument, to master any sport, or at least get on the way towards mastery. As mastery itself probably takes decades, but depends again on how much effort is put in, what the learning frontiers are, what the challenges are. So that is the first one, master human sound. The second one is master human movement. Now we think we're masters of our movement, but we're not familiar with every possible movement that we are capable of achieving in a standing position or lying down. There are postural positions, there are blocking positions, there are attacking positions. There are skills that our bodies and our brains are made to have. The ability to feel secure means that you are in control, you have no obvious vulnerabilities. Now if you are terribly unfit, you're always carrying around this thing in your mind that tells you that you are vulnerable. Your options are limited. Your ability to survive a stumble are reduced. The ability to move yourself out of the way of danger, whether that be a natural disaster or a civil conflict or just a brawl on the street. Whatever it is, you'll gain by mastering human movement. And again, you'll need to put 1,000 hours into that. 3 years, 300 hours a year. Divide up the planes of the body, all of the ways the arms can move, all the way the legs can move, kicking with the heel and the dorsum, punching palm up and palm down, all the shrugging exercises, all the staggering exercises. Do chin-ups in the 4 possible ways. Walk long distances, run long distances, or at least run occasionally. Become familiar with the landscape you are inhabiting so that there are no mysteries in there. These things will alleviate the fear, and that means producing confidence, creativity, trust. We need to build ourselves something that will last forever in our limited lifespan. And if we don't do that, it seems like we are condemning our species to extinction. But we can perfect what it is that we are as humans. The grand summaries of all of the things that evolution has ever given us. The next thing you must master is the ability to count using a 3-dimensional system, a volumetric system, that will give you insights into the nature of what it is you perceive in sight and sound, touch, what it is your neurons are doing, what it is that your brain is doing, what it is that society is doing, what it is that evolution is doing, what the cells are doing, what the molecules are doing, what we are doing in the solar system, in galaxy, in universe. All these things require an understanding of enormous numbers and tiniest numbers. So if we can extend our ability to imagine in these domains, then we'll have a better thinking system. So when you're at school, it took a long time for you to learn to count and to add and subtract. It then took time for you to multiply and divide. So that's 1-dimensional counting, 2-dimensional counting. I'm asking you to do 3-dimensional counting. So it means if you have 1 billion millimeter cubes in a line, that can be expressed as 1 cubic meter. It means if you have 1 billion cubic millimeters in a line, it can be expressed as a cubic kilometre, or it can be that distance of 36 light days. If you have a billion cubic millimeters in a line, it reaches 100 million light years. And yet it can be perceived as a cube with sides 1,000 kilometers long. So the distance is enormous and incomprehensible using a linear or two-dimensional or one-dimensional counting system. But it can be perceived for what it is if we understand the relationship of numbers and distance. And likewise, when we are attempting to understand cells, we need to understand what is happening on the nanoscale, the billionth of a meter. We need to understand the nature of evolution. If we go back 3,000 years, the relationship we have to those people is a billion. So that too is a relationship we have with people who live in 3,000 years' time. So we are not insignificant. Everything we do is not just counted, it is multiplied by all the ways it affects all the possible futures that would otherwise have happened had that choice not been made, had that skill not been learned, had that progress not been able to have been achieved. So I'm trying to unlock your potential. We are not evolved to be domesticated creatures. We have needed that to raise ourselves up to this point where we can now demand our freedom from it. We can become the sentient creatures that have a destiny that reaches for millions of years. And each rebirth will be the same as this one, with no knowledge of the past. Complete surprise at the amazingness of being able to inhabit consciousness within the universe. There is something that continues on and that goes through the female line. A line that never dies, a line that's eternal, the line that extends back to the very origin of all life. And then there's another line, another two lines, that give us the body and the brain, and the society and the ecology and the biosphere. It's time for us to be wise, and we need to be able to think in order to be wise. We don't want to remember the answer, we want to know what that answer is and why it is that answer. So become a polymath. Become familiar with all aspects of science, all aspects of culture, technology. You don't have to be a wizard, but you need to not be dealing with unknowns. So that is your quest. Become part of the new species, the one that extends beyond this crisis and into the future that lasts forever. Now I'm a scientist, I'm a philosopher, but this is the truth. This is the reason why we're here. We've come from this process, and the future needs that process to happen for it to continue on, to provide the circumstances by which something like each of us now exists within. So go forth, spread the word, practice those things, 1,000 hours of dimensional counting. Counting the lines, the surfaces, and the volumes. Move so you become familiar with all the possible movements available to you, standing and lying. Master all human sound, look up the YouTubes, harmonic singing, vocal projection, look in the textbooks, find out how the voice works. Listen to other experts, how they describe what is going on. Become familiar with what it is that you are, and you have nothing but gain, no risk, advantages all the way. Thank you. Your destiny awaits.